Let me tell you something that no one says out loud enough. Failure is not your enemy. We've been conditioned to believe that failure is something to avoid, something shameful, something that defines us as not good enough. But the truth is, failure is the price of admission to greatness. Every time you fail, life is handing you a mirror. It's not showing you who you are in your final form. It's showing you where you need to grow. Think about the people you admire, the innovators, the leaders, the athletes, the creators. They failed more than you can count. Not once, not twice, dozens, even hundreds of times. The only difference between them and those who give up is this: they didn't let failure stop them. They let it train them. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. Without it, you have no story. Without it, your wins wouldn't mean anything. You see, every failure has a hidden gift inside it, feedback. It's life's way of saying, not this way, and just
try again.
Get stronger, get sharper. The real danger isn't failure. The real danger is not trying at all, or worse, quitting after your first setback. Because when you stop, you don't just lose the game, you stop yourself from ever discovering how powerful you could become. Here's the truth: no one tells you. Failure is evidence that you are in the arena that you're playing, that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone. It means you're alive. It means you're growing. It means you're on the path. So the next time you stumble, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? Shift your perspective, and failure will no longer break you. It will build you. Because in the end, success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about collecting enough lessons from failure that success has no choice but to show up. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Most people grow up thinking that success and failure are two ends of a spectrum, as if you can only have one or the other. They imagine success standing tall on one side, shining and glorious, while failure crouches on the opposite end, dark and shameful. But the truth is, they are not opposites at all. They are partners. They are interwoven, inseparable. In fact, if you remove failure from the equation, success has nothing to stand on. It's like trying to build a house without laying bricks. Failure is the brickwork. Success is the completed structure. The reason this truth is often hidden is because failure makes people uncomfortable. Society glorifies the end result. We admire the medal on the athlete's chest, the best-selling book, the successful business, the celebrated invention. Rarely do we get to see the countless nights of frustration, the drafts thrown away, the strategies that collapsed, the attempts that ended in disappointment. Yet those invisible failures are what made the visible success possible. Without them, would be no story to tell. Think of a child learning to walk. They stumble, fall, bump their head, and sometimes cry. If falling were the opposite of walking, then every fall would mean they are moving further away from their goal. The reality is the opposite. Every fall builds the balance, the strength, and the awareness that eventually allow the child to take their first confident step. The falls are not setbacks. They are the foundation. The same is true in life. Every failure carries a lesson, a hidden instruction manual. When you fail, you don't lose. You gather data. You discover what doesn't work. You uncover a blind spot you couldn't see before. Success, on the other hand, is nothing more than the accumulation of all those lessons put into practice. Without failure teaching you the right path, success would not know where to go. The problem is not failure itself. The problem is how we perceive it. Too often, mistake failure as a permanent label. I failed, therefore I am a failure. That is the greatest lie. Failure is not a destination, it is an event. It's something that happens, not something you are. And if you can understand that, you will realize that every failure is actually evidence that you are in motion, that you are daring, that you are alive enough to try. The only true failure is standing still, never attempting, never risking, never daring. Think about the inventors, the pioneers, the leaders who changed history. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb on his first try. He went through thousands of failed experiments. But each failure gave him information. Each attempt revealed what would not work. So-called failures became stepping stones that allowed him to finally succeed. If he had accepted failure as the opposite of success, he would have stopped at attempt number 1 or 2 or 50. Instead, he understood failure as the foundation. It's that mindset that lit the world. The same principle applies in business, in relationships, in personal growth. If you launch a project and it collapses, it doesn't mean success has rejected you. It means you've laid another brick. You've gained a piece of the foundation. If you step into a relationship that ends painfully, it doesn't mean love is out of reach. It means you've discovered what doesn't align with you, and you've built the wisdom to choose better next time. Each stumble is not pulling you away from your goal. It is anchoring you to the ground that will one day hold your victory. Failure is the training ground for resilience. Success cannot teach you resilience. Success is comfortable. It feels good, rewards you. But failure hardens your resolve. Failure forces you to stretch. Failure humbles you, strips away your ego, and demands that you rebuild stronger. Without that process, success would crumble the moment you achieved it because you would lack the character to sustain it. Look around at anyone who has achieved greatness. You will not find a straight line upward. You will find detours, breakdowns, collapses, and comebacks. That's because failure was not their enemy. It was their classroom. Success is the diploma you earn after enough failures have taught you what is required. But here's where most people get stuck. They stop too early. They see failure as the end rather than the beginning. Once or twice and declare, this is not for me. What they don't see is that those early failures are simply the foundation being poured. Imagine walking into a construction site and seeing nothing but dirt, holes, and scattered bricks. If you judged the project in that moment, you'd think nothing was being built. But give it time, give it patience, let the foundation set, and eventually a structure begins to rise. The same is true for your dreams. If you quit in the foundation stage, you never give success a chance to stand. That's why failure is not the opposite of success. It is the groundwork beneath it. It's proof that you're building. It's evidence that you are moving forward. Every failure is a whisper telling you, not this way, but keep going. And if you have the courage to listen, you'll realize that success is not a single moment of arrival, but the sum of every failure you've survived, learned from, and used as fuel. So when you fail, and you will, because anyone who attempts something worthwhile does, don't shrink back. Don't interpret it as proof that you're not capable. Instead, see it as progress. See it as your foundation growing thicker, stronger, more unshakable. Because the taller the building, the deeper the foundation must be. If you're experiencing failures, it's because you're meant to build something tall. That's the truth hidden from most people. Success is not a clean, polished, linear path. It is messy, it is filled with missteps, dead ends, and restarts. And yet every so-called failure is secretly laying the groundwork for a success that will one day appear inevitable. Failure does not oppose your success. It constructs it. It shapes it. It gives it weight, meaning, and permanence. The foundation may not be glamorous, but without it, everything you build will fall. The next time you fail, remind yourself this is not the end of the road. This is the ground being laid beneath my feet. This is the evidence that I am becoming, because failure is not the opposite of success. It's the very thing holding it up. The world hides failure because it feels uncomfortable, but growth only lives there. From the earliest years of our lives, shown polished versions of reality. We see the winning athletes holding trophies, the entrepreneurs who built empires, the artists who deliver masterpieces, the leaders who stand on stages inspiring millions. We rarely see are the years of stumbling, the hidden battles, the rejections, the late nights of doubt, the repeated attempts that fell flat. Society packages success in highlight reels, but buries the failures behind the curtain. Because failure makes people uneasy. It challenges the illusion of perfection. It reminds us of our own fragility. But here's the paradox: growth only happens in the very place that most people try to hide. Growth doesn't live in the applause. It doesn't live in the victories. It lives in the struggle, the missteps, the uncomfortable moments where you realize what doesn't work. The world prefers to sweep those moments under the rug. It is precisely in those hidden spaces where transformation is born. Think about how we are educated. In school, mistakes are circled in red, marked as wrong, punished with lower grades. From the start, we are conditioned to avoid being wrong, to avoid making errors. That conditioning carries into adulthood. We become afraid to try because trying brings the possibility of failing, and failing is branded as shameful. So we play it safe, stay small, stay silent. We forget that the discomfort of failure is not meant to humiliate us. It's meant to refine us. Growth is not possible without discomfort. Muscles don't grow by being comfortable. They grow by being torn and rebuilt. Knowledge doesn't expand when you only repeat what you already know. It expands when you make mistakes, get corrected, and learn something new. Confidence doesn't come from avoiding rejection. It comes from experiencing rejection and realizing it cannot destroy you. Everything about human progress points back to the same truth. Growth is born in the uncomfortable space that failure creates. Yet the world hides this. Why? Because failure doesn't look pretty. It doesn't sell as well as success. People would rather show their results than their process because the process is messy. And so a dangerous illusion is created. People see success as effortless. They look at someone's finished product and think they must be naturally gifted. They must have something I don't. What they don't see is the years of hidden failure that shape that success. This illusion becomes a trap. Someone tries and fails, they look around and think they're alone. They think nobody else is struggling like I am. Everyone else seems to get it right. They don't realize that everyone who ever achieved anything significant has walked through the same valley. They just didn't broadcast it. The silence around failure convinces people to quit when they're closest to a breakthrough. The truth is that failure is the most honest teacher life will ever give you. Success can deceive you into thinking you've mastered something. Failure humbles you into recognizing what still needs work. It forces you to innovate, to rethink, to adjust. It cuts through pride and builds resilience. That uncomfortable sting of failure is the exact environment where growth takes root. Without it, remain stagnant, comfortable, untested. Look at nature. A seed must break before it can sprout. A chick must struggle to break its shell before it can live. Growth requires a breaking point, and that breaking point feels uncomfortable. If nature itself requires struggle to produce life, why do we think human growth would be any different? Failure is not an obstacle to growth. It is the soil in which growth is planted. When you accept this truth, the discomfort of failure transforms into a kind of strength. You begin to see each failure not as a verdict, but as training. You stop hiding from it. Instead, you embrace it as a vital part of your story. You realize that every failure is evidence that you're pushing boundaries, stretching limits, exploring new territory. That's where growth is found, not in the safety of what you already know, but in the risk of what you don't. So why does the world keep hiding failure? Because facing it openly would mean admitting vulnerability. It would mean dismantling the myth of instant success and acknowledging that struggle is universal. The few who dare to embrace failure publicly, who admit their mistakes, who share their setbacks, are the ones who inspire true growth in others. They pull back the curtain and show that behind every polished success lies a trail of broken attempts. If you want to grow, you cannot follow the world's example of hiding failure. You must seek it, face it, learn from it. You must choose to sit with the discomfort long enough to extract the lesson it's offering. It won't feel good in the moment. It will sting. It will bruise your ego. It may even bring you to your knees. But those are the moments that shape you into someone capable of carrying greater success. Comfort never will. The truth is, growth demands a price. That price is paid in failure. The world will keep hiding it, dressing up success as effortless, selling you shortcuts and hacks. Don't buy into the illusion. Know that if you are failing, you are already ahead of those who never tried. If you are failing, you are in the exact place where growth is happening. The world may hide failure because it feels uncomfortable, but you don't have to. You can embrace it. You can turn it into fuel. You can let it build you into someone stronger, wiser, unshakable than before, because while comfort may keep you safe, only failure has the power to make you grow. Every failure is a feedback system guiding you to adjust, refine, and rise higher. Life doesn't hand us a clear manual for every goal we pursue. It doesn't say, step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, arrive at success. Instead, it gives us a process. That process is full of trial, error, and correction. Failure is not a punishment in that process. It is information. It is feedback. It is life's way of saying, that path didn't work. Try another one. When you begin to see failure as feedback instead of defeat, everything changes. You no longer feel paralyzed by mistakes. You realize mistakes are simply signals. Just as a compass points north, failure points you toward what needs to be adjusted. It highlights weaknesses you didn't see, blind spots you didn't notice, strategies that no longer serve you. Far from being the end of the road, failure is simply a signpost redirecting you to a better route. Think of an airplane flying across the world. Did you know that airplanes are off course most of the time? They don't fly in a perfectly straight line. Winds push them, turbulence shifts them, small errors knock them slightly off track. But the plane doesn't crash just because it drifts. Instead, constant feedback guides the pilot to adjust, refine, correct. Without that feedback, the plane would never arrive. Failure works the same way. It is the feedback that allows you to course correct so you can ultimately reach your destination. The danger is not failure itself. It is ignoring the feedback failure provides. Many people stumble, feel the sting, and stop right there. They interpret the pain as evidence that they should quit, when in truth the pain is just the system alerting them. There's something to change here. If you quit, you throw away the very information that could have carried you forward. Consider the great innovators. Every invention we rely on today is the result of repeated failures turned into feedback. Early attempts didn't work. They weren't discarded as meaningless. They were studied, analyzed, and refined. That's why the final product looks inevitable to us today. It only became inevitable because each failure revealed a clue that guided the next step. Without that feedback, innovation would never exist. Failure in its rawest form is simply data. It tells you what doesn't work, and sometimes more importantly, reveals what you truly value. When you fail, you get to ask, what did this teach me? What should I change? What will I do differently? Those questions turn pain into progress. They take what feels like loss and transform it into growth. Every failure carries within it a seed of insight, and if you are willing to extract that seed, you rise higher. There's a reason why those who succeed in any field often have a history of failing more than others. It's not that they're luckier or more talented. It's that they've collected more feedback. Each failure gave them an adjustment to make, and each adjustment refined their approach. Over time, those refinements compound. They become sharper, more resilient. By the time success comes, it isn't because they avoided failure. It's because they harvested every ounce of feedback from failure until they built something unshakable. This is why failure, though painful, the most reliable teacher. Success can sometimes mask weakness. When something works the first time, you may never question it. You may never ask, could this be better? Could this be stronger? But failure strips away that illusion. It forces you to confront reality. It demands honesty. It demands that you face what isn't working and adapt. That's what builds character, skill, and wisdom. Feedback from failure doesn't only apply to big goals like careers or businesses. Applies to every part of life. In relationships, when one ends, it's feedback about compatibility, communication, or personal growth. In health, when your body breaks down, it's feedback about habits and lifestyle. In personal growth, you feel stuck. It's feedback that your current mindset or strategy is no longer serving you. If you can embrace failure as feedback instead of resisting it, you unlock a constant stream of learning. The challenge is emotional. Feedback through failure often arrives with pain, disappointment, or embarrassment. That's why so many people run from it. But pain is part of the system. Pain gets your attention. Pain says, look here, something needs to change. If you can separate the emotional sting from the lesson, you'll begin to see failure not as humiliation, but as guidance. The sting fades, but the lesson endures. Rising higher requires this perspective shift. Without it, failure looks like a wall blocking you. With it, failure looks like a staircase. Each misstep becomes a step upward because it teaches you how to climb. The feedback might say, you need more patience. You need more skill. You need a different strategy. You need to approach from another angle. Each adjustment lifts you a little higher. Over time, the very failures that once felt like setbacks become the reason you can stand taller. The irony is that most people pray for success without realizing that failure is the training ground that prepares them to handle it. Without the feedback of failure, success would arrive as a fragile victory, easily lost, quickly broken. When success is built on layers of feedback, it becomes stable. You rise higher not just once, but in a way that you can sustain. So the next time you fail, pause. Don't rush to label it as defeat. Don't bury it. Ask, feedback is this giving me? What is life telling me through this? That question alone can turn failure into your greatest ally. Each failure becomes a signal. Each signal becomes an adjustment. Each adjustment raises your level, because failure was never designed to refine you. It was designed to refine you. It is the feedback system of life guiding you to adjust, to sharpen, to rise higher than you were yesterday. And if you have the courage to listen to it, will not be your downfall. It will be the very thing that lifts you. Most successful people failed more times than most people even tried. This statement alone turns the common understanding of success upside down. We are conditioned to believe that successful people achieved what they did because they avoided mistakes, because they got it right the first time, because they were smarter, luckier, or more gifted than the rest of us. But the truth is the opposite. The most successful individuals didn't avoid failure. They embraced it. They accumulated it. They failed again and again, so many times that the average person, looking at their track record, would have quit long before success ever arrived. What separates the great from the ordinary is not a lack of failure, but a willingness to endure it. Most people try once, maybe twice, and when it doesn't work out, they stop. They tell themselves it's not for them, that it's too hard, that success belongs to someone else. They look at failure as a sign to retreat. Successful people see failure differently. To them, failure is simply a test run. Each failed attempt is another piece of experience, another adjustment, another refinement. While most people give up after their first stumble, successful keep moving forward, failing their way into mastery. Think about it, the athlete who wins championships has missed thousands of shots in practice and in games. The musician who fills stadiums has spent years hitting wrong notes, writing songs that went nowhere, performing in empty rooms before anyone knew their name. The entrepreneur who builds an empire has likely launched ventures that collapsed, faced rejection after rejection, and lost more money than most people would ever risk. Yet they keep stepping forward, knowing that every failure brings them closer to a win. This is why comparing yourself to someone else's success can be so misleading. You see the highlight, but you don't see the failures stacked behind it. Success is rarely the result of one brilliant move. It is the result of thousands of attempts, most of which failed. What makes the outcome look extraordinary is simply persistence. They stayed in the game longer than others were willing to. It is a kind of resilience that only comes from repeated failure. Each time you fail and continue, you prove to yourself that you can endure. Most people don't even give themselves the chance to develop this resilience because they quit too early. Rather protect their ego than risk another failure. They stop trying to avoid the embarrassment of being wrong. But the successful, those who rise to levels that inspire the world, are the ones who risked embarrassment, risked pain, risked loss, kept going until the tide turned. Failure multiplies attempts, and attempts multiply opportunity. The math is simple. The more times you try, the more chances you create for something to work. Most people never give themselves enough tries to discover their potential. They give up at attempt number 2, while the successful push through to attempt number 50, 100, even 1,000. That's why their success looks unreachable. It's built on a volume of attempts most people never dared to make. This principle applies to every aspect of life. In relationships, the people who eventually find deep and lasting love are often those who are willing to risk heartbreak more times than others. In careers, those who rise to the top are the ones who sent out more applications, pitched more ideas, took more risks, endured more rejections. In personal growth, those who transform their lives are the ones who failed countless times at changing habits, yet never gave up on the process. Each failure was not a dead end. It was another step towards something greater. The irony is that failure doesn't disqualify you from success. It qualifies you for it. It proves you're in the game, that you're willing to do what others won't. Success is not reserved for the perfect. It belongs to the persistent. The most successful people aren't superhuman. They are simply those who were willing to look failure in the eye more often than others dared to. History is full of these examples. Leaders, inventors, creators, most of them are remembered for their victories, but their victories were built on a mountain of failures. The difference between them and everyone else is that they refused to let failure be the final chapter. They understood that failure is temporary, but quitting is permanent. So they pressed forward, failing more times than the majority even tried, until their persistence carved out a breakthrough. Here's what this means for you. If you want success, you must increase your tolerance for failure. You must be willing to fail more than others are willing to try. You must give yourself permission to fall short repeatedly, to look foolish, to feel uncomfortable. Because the truth is, every failure places you one step closer to the win that others will never see, because they stopped before they got there. Success is not about avoiding mistakes. It's about stacking enough failures behind you that you've collected the experience, resilience, and the wisdom to finally break through. When you understand this, you stop fearing failure. You stop making it personal. You start to see it as a natural and necessary part of the journey. So the next time you fail, remind yourself, this is not the end. This is proof that I'm still trying. This is proof that I'm in the arena. And if I'm willing to fail more times than most people even try, then eventually I will stand in a place most people only dream about. That's the truth behind success. The most successful people aren't those who failed the least. They're the ones who failed the most, because every failure was another attempt, another lesson, another step toward the life they envisioned. They didn't quit, and neither should you. Your relationship with failure defines your relationship with success. Most people think their relationship with success is determined by how badly they want it, how much talent they have, or how hard they work. Those things matter, yes, but there is a deeper truth that often goes unnoticed. The way you handle failure will ultimately decide how much success you can hold in your life. Success is not just about achievement, it's about capacity. Your capacity is shaped by the way you respond when things don't go your way. If failure crushes you, if every mistake convinces you to stop, then you've unconsciously limited your access to success. Success requires resilience, persistence, and ability to stay in the game long enough for the reward to arrive. If you treat failure as an enemy, you will always retreat before success has time to appear. But if you treat failure as a teacher, if you see it as part of the process, every setback builds your strength, deepens your resilience, and expands your capacity to hold success when it comes. Think of failure as a mirror. It shows you how you react when life challenges you. Do you collapse or do you stand taller? Do you withdraw or do you push forward? That reaction defines how far you can go. Your relationship with failure is like the foundation beneath a skyscraper. The deeper and stronger it is, the higher the building can rise. If your relationship with failure is shallow, fragile, or bitter, you can only rise so far before it all crumbles. The people who achieve extraordinary levels of success are not necessarily those with the most talent or the best opportunities. The ones who built a strong, healthy relationship with failure. They do not see it as rejection of their worth. They see it as redirection. They don't interpret it as a reason to quit. They interpret it as an invitation to refine. That perspective allows them to keep moving forward while others get stuck. Consider this: success is rarely instant. It comes after a journey of attempts, corrections, and growth. That journey is paved with failures. If your relationship with failure is toxic, you will avoid taking risks altogether. You will hesitate, procrastinate, and play small. You'll protect yourself from the sting of failure, but you'll also protect yourself from the possibility of real success. Fearful relationship with failure leads to a fearful relationship with success, because you can't have one without the other. On the other hand, if you embrace failure, if you welcome it as a necessary companion, then success becomes inevitable. You stop being paralyzed by setbacks. You stop internalizing mistakes as proof that you're not good enough. Instead, you understand that each failure is sharpening you, building you, and preparing you for greater opportunities. This relationship with failure creates freedom, the freedom to try, to stretch, to attempt things others won't dare. That freedom is the soil in which success grows. Your relationship with failure also determines how you handle success once you achieve it. Success is not a static achievement. It comes with new challenges, new responsibilities, and new risks. If you haven't learned to embrace failure, then success will feel terrifying because you'll constantly fear losing it. You'll play safe, cling to what you have, and avoid taking the bold steps needed to sustain or expand it. But if failure has been your teacher all along, then success doesn't scare you. You know that if you stumble, you can rise again. That confidence allows you to take bigger leaps, which in turn multiplies your success. Think of the athlete who misses countless shots in practice. Their relationship with failure is one of respect. They know it's part of the game. The pressure is on and the championship is at stake. That relationship steadies them. They can take the shot because they are not afraid of missing. Contrast that with someone who avoids failure at all costs. In the moment of truth, fear of failure paralyzes them and success slips away. The difference wasn't talent, it was the relationship with failure. This relationship is built over time. Each time you fail, you get to choose how to interpret it. You can label it as a personal flaw. You can see it as information, you can shrink back, or you can step forward stronger. Those small choices accumulate until they form your default response. If your default is to learn, adjust, and continue, then success will eventually meet you because you'll still be in the arena long after others have left. What most people forget is that failure and success are not separate experiences. They are two sides of the same coin. You cannot chase success while running from failure because they walk hand in hand. Your relationship with one always defines your relationship with the other. If you resent failure, you will resent the path to success. If you fear failure, you will fear the journey that success requires. If you embrace failure, then success becomes a natural outcome of your willingness to persist. So ask yourself, how do you see failure? Do you let it define you or do you let it refine you? Do you treat it as a closed door? Do you use it as a stepping stone? The answer to that question reveals how much success you can hold in your life. The truth is, your relationship with failure is one of the most important relationships you will ever have. It will shape your confidence, your resilience, your courage, and ultimately your destiny. If you build a relationship of acceptance, curiosity, and respect with failure, then you will walk side by side with success. But if you avoid it, despise it, or fear it, then success will always remain out of reach. At the end of the day, success is not reserved for the people who never fail. It is reserved for the people who have learned how to fail well. Because those who fail well know how to get up, how to adapt, how to keep moving. They know that failure is not final. It is formative, and that truth defines everything. Your relationship with failure defines your relationship with success. Build it wisely. Success will never be a stranger in your life. When you learn to embrace failure as a teacher, it transforms from pain into power. Failure hurts. There's no denying it. When you fall short of your goal, when your plans collapse, your effort doesn't produce the outcome you hoped for, it stings. It feels personal. It feels like a rejection of who you are. That pain is what convinces most people to stop trying. They would rather avoid the possibility of pain than risk another failure. But the truth is, pain and power are two sides of the same coin. If you know how to embrace failure as a teacher, you can convert that pain into something extraordinary. Strength, resilience, and the fuel to rise higher. The difference lies in perspective. When you treat failure as a verdict, pain remains just pain. But when you treat failure as a teacher, pain becomes information, it becomes insight, it becomes the spark that sharpens your awareness and expands your understanding. Suddenly, the thing that once crushed you is now the thing building you. It's not tearing you down, it's training you. Every great teacher in life has a way of demanding your attention. Failure is no different. It demands your attention because it doesn't feel good. That sting forces you to pause, reflect, and ask questions you might never ask if everything went smoothly. Went wrong? What could I do differently? What did this reveal about me, about my strategy, about my approach? Those questions are the curriculum failure offers. They are the lessons hidden inside the pain. When you are willing to lean into those lessons, the pain begins to shift into power. Consider how human beings actually grow. Physical strength is built by breaking down muscle fibers through resistance. The soreness afterward is pain. That pain is what signals the muscle to rebuild stronger. Emotional strength works the same way. Failure delivers resistance, discomfort, and sometimes heartbreak. But if you embrace it as part of the process, you come back with greater resilience, sharper focus, and deeper capacity than before. The pain itself becomes the proof of your growth. The transformation happens the moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "Is this teaching me?" That simple shift turns failure from an enemy into an ally. It redefines the story you tell yourself. Instead of being the victim of failure, you become the student of it. And as a student, you gain power. You begin to accumulate lessons, strategies, and wisdom that most people never get because most people quit before they reach that point. This is why those who embrace failure often rise far beyond those who avoid it. Avoiding failure might protect you from immediate pain, but it robs you of the lessons that create long-term strength. Embracing failure exposes you to pain in the short term, but it transforms that pain into lasting power. It teaches you perseverance, patience, creativity, humility, all the traits required not just to achieve success, but to sustain it. When you shift your perspective and treat failure as a teacher, even rejection becomes valuable. That job you didn't get, it can teach you where your skills need sharpening. That business idea that didn't work, it can teach you how to adapt, pivot, or build a stronger foundation. That relationship that ended, it can teach you about self-awareness, communication, and growth. Every form of failure carries a lesson, but only if you're willing to see it. The reason most people never experience this transformation is because they stop at the pain. They feel the sting and walk away. They never stay long enough to extract the wisdom. If you're willing to sit with the pain, if you're willing to ask what it's here to teach you, then slowly the weight begins to shift. The very thing that once felt heavy begins to empower you. The one becomes wisdom. The scar becomes strength. Think of some of the greatest success stories in history. Many of them are not tales of instant triumph, but of repeated failures embraced as lessons. Innovators, leaders, creators, they were knocked down sometimes publicly, sometimes painfully. They chose to learn. They transformed their pain into strategies, into resilience, into breakthroughs that changed everything. What looked like defeat was actually preparation. Failure was teaching them something that victory never could have. This is the hidden gift of failure. It teaches you lessons success can't. Success feels good, but it rarely forces you to question yourself. Failure does. Success can inflate your ego, but failure humbles you. Success makes you celebrate. Failure makes you evaluate. Both are valuable, but only one has the power to shape you into the kind of person who can handle the weight of greater victories. That's why embracing failure as a teacher doesn't just transform pain into power, it transforms you into someone capable of wielding that power. The truth is, life is always teaching. The question is whether we are willing to be students. If you resist failure, if you resent it, you miss the lesson and stay stuck in the pain. But if you embrace it, you graduate from each experience with more strength, more clarity, more courage. Over time, the fear of failure fades because you know that even if you fall, you will rise with more than you had before. Failure stops being something to dread. It becomes something to use. When you learn to embrace failure as a teacher, you step into a kind of freedom. You are no longer held back by the fear of getting it wrong. You are free to try, to experiment, to stretch into new possibilities because you know that no matter what happens, You will come away with either success or a lesson, and both will move you forward. That is real power. Pain is inevitable. Everyone experiences it. But power is optional and only comes to those who choose to see pain as preparation. If you run from failure, pain remains just pain. But if you embrace failure as a teacher, pain becomes the very source of your strength. So the next time you fail, don't shrink back, don't hide, lean in. Ask what it's teaching you. Let the pain shape you, stretch you, strengthen you. Because when you embrace failure as a teacher, it will no longer hold you down. It will lift you up. It will no longer weaken you. It will empower you. That transformation is what separates those who merely survive from those who truly rise. When you learn to embrace failure as a teacher, it doesn't just change how you see failure. It changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying with defeat and start identifying with growth. You stop seeing yourself as broken and start seeing yourself as becoming. And in that moment, you realize the truth: failure was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to deliver you the power to rise.